Hello and welcome to the FatBoSS guide to Vectis on Mythic.
So this fight on Mythic can't really be done in the clusterfuck way that you likely did it on Heroic. This is because you now have 4 Omega Vectors to deal with instead of 3, and they hurt. 2 of them on a single player requires pretty high spot healing, so you'll need to avoid this at all costs. To add, the general incoming damage is pretty high, so 5 healing this fight is a good idea. To make things worse, at set linger and infection stacks, you'll begin to gain different negative effects. It is, however, a simple encounter, and a kill can be done fairly quickly if everyone in your raid understands the strategy. With that in mind, let's jump into it.
Now before pulling the boss, set up 4 world markers in a square formation fairly close to one another, making sure they're at least all within a healing rain or efflorescence. You'll then want to assign each raid group to each marker. We put group 1 on the front left, which is a melee group, group 2 on the front right, which is another melee group, group 3 at the back left, and then group 4 on the back right. Note that tanks aren't considered part of any groups and ideally will never really gain the Omega Vector debuff. When Omega Vector is cast at the start of the fight, we wait and see who has received it. Sometimes you're lucky and each group has a single Omega Vector in it, in which cases it's great, but in most cases that's not going to happen. We have a single person call for what player to move to which group and deposit their debuff, and then move back immediately after their debuff has expired. Once done successfully, each group will have a single Omega Vector, and if people play correctly, it will remain there for the rest of the encounter, even through the intermissions. The idea behind this is to keep the lingering infection stacks across the raid as equal as possible. If a single player within a group does gain significantly higher stacks than the others, they can simply move a couple yards away from the group and let the rest of them catch up. Now it's important throughout the fight that you keep a mental note of how many stacks you have. At 6 stacks or higher, when the boss casts Contagion, you'll pulse damage to all players around you within 5 yards over 3 seconds. So whenever you do go above 6 stacks, you must move quickly out of your group whenever Contagion is cast and then return to your group once you finish pulsing damage. At 12 stacks, you'll spawn a Parasite when the boss casts Contagion. This ad needs to be killed immediately as it will deal damage to random players and also give additional stacks to the rest of the raid. If you play the strategy out properly, you should never have to deal with a single one of these ads, as nobody should really ever go above 12 stacks. And if you somehow manage to do the impossible task of getting 25 stacks, you will instantly die when Contagion is cast, as well as pretty much wiping the entire raid.
Now the Absorb Shield applied to the entire raid from the Immunosuppression cast from the Gestate ad on Mythic is pretty damn strong. So whenever Gestate is cast and the ad starts to spawn, all DPS must be ready to swap to it immediately. You should only ever have a single one of these cast per ad, any more than that and you'll put your healers behind significantly. As for healing cooldowns in this fight, you'll want to attempt to have a single one up per Contagion cast, and you'll have 3 casts per phase 1. For timings and an example of how we have our cooldowns set, you can find a Google document in the description that you can copy from. But that's everything you need to know for phase 1, let's talk about the intermission. Now while soaking all the puddles that you store in Heroic, you'll still want to continue keeping your group formations as best you can to prevent the debuffs from jumping to another group and potentially having a single player having more than one of them. We simply expand the groups into areas that are associated with their markers. So as an example, group 1, which is the front left group, takes the front left side of the room. Group 2, which is the front right group, takes the front right hand side of the room. Group 3 takes the back left, and Group 4 takes the back right. During this phase, we don't use any healing cooldowns whatsoever, and make the use of personal cooldowns instead while soaking puddles, especially if that player also has an Omega debuff at the same time. Providing you don't get hit by multiple lines, this phase is actually pretty easy to heal, as it's all just low damage spot healing over a short period of time. The moment the intermission is over and the boss is beginning to spawn again, it's vital that you get back to your marker quickly again to prevent the wrong group from gaining an additional debuff, and from there you just repeat the fight. Now it's entirely possible in your first kill that you'll have up to 4 phase 1s, but this late into the expansion it's probably likely you'll only have 3. Just keep in mind if you have any more than 4 phases, you'll probably hit the Enrage or you'll just simply die to the Contagion damage. But that's all it is for this encounter. Just get the hang of phase 1, make sure you keep to your groups, make sure debuffs don't jump to different groups, make sure you move out the raid when you have more than 6 stacks and Contagion is cast, and just hope your healers can organise their CDs in such a way so every single Contagion cast is covered. Apart from that, soak circles in the intermission and don't be shit.
Thanks for watching guys. If you want more detailed information on this encounter, then please do go check out our written work over on Wowhead. You can find a link to that guide in the description below. And before we do head off, a huge thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. You guys are awesome. We appreciate every single last one of you, so thank you so much. And once again guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching.